Hey y'all, hi. So I have been feeling like an absolute pile of garbage lately. I feel like it has been several days since I really got myself together. I also weirdly feel like this has been the premise of a video before, maybe recently. I guess it's worth saying that from time to time I come to you, a broken woman, or rather a pile of garbage, just a person who, for one reason or another, and really it's just life's ups and downs, right? I come to you as someone who has been going through a down patch and just hasn't been able to do the little things that help get me out of that. And usually I show up when I've got like my first foot on the bottom rung of the ladder and I'm like finally determined to rise. And that's the case today. I woke up this morning feeling like, okay, I can do it. And I basically decided to film myself going up the ladder instead of going up the ladder on my own behind the scenes and then sitting down to film as if nothing had ever been a struggle. I also decided to throw in a little bit of what's cheering me up right now content so that it wouldn't just be like a cosmetic improving of the self and of the mood, but my hope is that by talking about the things that have been great lately, I would also kind of remind myself of all the good that there is in my life and along the way share with you some of the things that have been good for me recently. If this is your first time to my channel, then welcome. I'm really glad that you're here. My name is Hannah. This is mostly a beauty channel, so me putting on makeup while I talk about stuff is sort of par for the course. Sometimes I review new makeup, but I'm also just fundamentally interested in aesthetics at large, how beautiful things can add value to our lives, but the fact that there's a limit to what beautiful things can do for us. And I'm actually going to talk about some of that in this video too, not just the makeup. So if you like it, I hope you'll subscribe. And now let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. Okay, so the first steps that I took to feeling like something other than a pile of garbage, like something that cut above a pile of garbage, I've already taken. And there have been actually quite many of them. I'm going to put on makeup while I tell you. No, this campaign started, I guess it started when I woke up this morning. You know what? It actually started before I went to sleep last night. I took some measures to have a really good night's sleep. I had a little extra magnesium calm. It's like this powdered magnesium that helps with sleep. Took a little extra dose, put myself to bed a little early. I was like, I'm going to do everything I can to sleep through the night and have energy tomorrow. So I did that. And then I woke up and I was like, I'm tired of feeling like a pile of garbage. I'm going to wash my hair and dye my eyebrows. I'm basically growing out my bangs. I've stopped trimming them and I think I'm going to let them join the rest of the hair and see how I feel. But because I only wash my hair once every week, and actually this time it had stretched to like at least 10 days. See previous comments about me having felt like a pile of garbage for a long time. So because I don't wash it very frequently and because my hair grows really fast, it's like literally every time I wash and dry it, my bangs are a new length. It's like really different. So today I got this big swoop over here and they're really quite long enough, covering my brows. These are true curtain bangs, so that's exciting. But speaking of the brows, I dyed them kind of skinny, but very dark. I'm feeling it. And just those two things instantly made me feel like the situation was improving, like some of the garbage was getting cleared up. But then I went the extra distance and I applied these. This is another style of those Kiss Impress press-on nails, the ones that don't use glue, but that stay for a really long time. I am literally impressed by them. They're peel and stick. Like you peel the backing off and you stick. You press them down firmly to sort of activate the adhesive, but it's just a sticker. Like they're sticking on with stickers. The first set that I had on lasted a week through a bath and several showers. I couldn't believe it. And then the great thing is when they start falling off, because it's like this sticky adhesive, one will come very, very loose. You'll feel that it's loose, but it won't go flying off because like part of the adhesive will still be sticking. So unlike glue nails, which are like on until they're not, and then as soon as they're not, they're like flying off and getting lost. Or, you're like out at a restaurant, one of your nails has fallen off, and in order to get it back on, you have to glue it back on. With these, it's like you're out at a restaurant, one of the nails has essentially fallen off, but it's still like hanging on. It's still there. So it feels loose, like a loose tooth, but your nails still look intact to anyone who's looking, and you can keep track of it easily. Like it's not going to fall off and get lost in the restaurant floor. Anyway, big fan. This is a style I'm wearing today. I got them at Ulta, actually. I used some of my channel budget on them because they are so useful for situations like this where I'm like, I'm going to film today, I want to put myself together, and then it's just like peel and stick, bam, bam, bam. So I did that, and the last step was I put on a little bit of jewelry. Wouldn't normally maybe wear this necklace with this more casual top, but I was like, I'm trying to get it together. And I feel like I've come a long way. I haven't even started putting makeup on. I've come a long way. A little bit of self-care can take you a long way. So speaking of putting makeup on, I brought this skincare down here to show you. This came in PR, and I get a bit of skincare in PR, and I'll test it, and then maybe I'll tell you about it like in a skincare routine video if it has impressed me. Some skincare kind of comes and goes through my life, and it's not distinctive enough for me to tell you about it, and it's also not, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't mention it in like a fails video or anything. It's just, I only bring things to the camera if I'm feeling really excited about them and I feel like there's a reason. And this brand, literally as soon as I opened these and started using these products, I was like, I can't wait to tell my peeps about this. So first of all, the brand, I'll be brief because this is sort of like an accessory to the video, although this is something that's cheering me up, to be perfectly frank. If you're interested, you can look it up yourself, so I'll just give you a quick overview. The brand is based on slugging, which is the idea of putting like a thick, occlusive layer of something on top of all of your evening skincare and sleeping in it to keep everything locked in, to keep moisture locked in. So they make this slugging balm, which is like a moisture locking occlusive balm. The brand is called Future Wise. And you know, that's what a slugging product should look like. It's really soft though and melty and lovely and absolutely does exactly what it's supposed to do. But I've fallen even harder for this, which is their barrier repair cream. It's also super moisturizing and kind of locking in of skincare and moisture, but it's a little bit more lightweight. It's like a day cream. This is the way the packaging looks. It's just so awesome. And that's the way that the little pump looks inside. And that's the cream. The packaging is just so good. And you know, it wouldn't matter if the products weren't, but they really nailed it. This brand just launched at Target and it's not super cheap. The products are like $25, but it's also not wildly expensive and it's super accessible. And that got me excited about sharing it too. So I like this so much because it's just so silky. It's like the perfect mid-weight, not too heavy, but also not a gel cream. Or it kind of does feel like it has qualities of a gel cream, but like a heavy gel cream. Reminds me of K-Beauty. Like it has the elegance of a K-Beauty formulation. It's the kind of thing that I'm not surprised to come across in K-Beauty, but that does surprise me a little bit to come across from a newly launched American brand. So what I'm trying to say is that I like it so much that I've been like priming my skin with it. I feel like I'm going to go through this like a wildfire. I've just been using it morning and night. At night I've been using it under this, mixing it and layering it with my other skincare with actives and stuff. So I'm just going to let that be my primer. I'm going to start in with skin, just my trusty old Exa Green Color Corrector Rose Ink Concealer. I'm going to use a brush. I've been rubbing my base products into my skin with my face. Help. I've been using my hands to rub products into my skin, which I do think is the most effective overall method, but it's just a little bit more labor intensive. And I feel like a pile of garbage and I want to just go the quick and dirty route and use a brush, diffuse and spread and have like a really thin layer. Who cares if it doesn't all get worked in? Like that's kind of how I'm feeling. And while I do this, I'm going to tell you about the books that have been cheering me up because that's the brief I've set myself for this video, to basically do a casual version of what's cheering me up right now while I cheer myself up by putting myself together, because I feel like that'll be a double whammy. Reminding myself that there's a lot of good in my life, sharing some of my finds with you, ending up better for it on the other side in a bunch of little ways. So 2 books, well, 1 book and 1 book series have really gotten me in their grips lately, just retroactively scanning for subject-verb disagreement, but I think I did it correctly. The book series is one that I think some of you might have recommended to me because when I finally decided to read them, the title was quite familiar. And actually, another book by this same writer, Naomi Novak, Uprooted, I did read a while back, and it was a recommendation from in the comments. So thank you to whoever it was who recommended Uprooted to me. You really sold it to me in the comments with the way you described it. And as soon as I was done with whatever I was reading at the time, I read Uprooted. And it's like a one-off. She writes these like, some of her books are sort of like retellings of famous fairy tales, but in a fresh and sort of slightly subversive way, I would say. So Uprooted isn't the first in a series. It's just like a one-off book. And it's light in its way, but really fun to read. Well done. And it was totally spot on for me. Like, it's exactly the kind of thing I need right now for like my bedtime reading. So I quite enjoyed it, but I didn't go on to investigate more of the writing of Naomi Novik, which might tell you how I ended up feeling about Uprooted. Like, I really loved it while I was reading it, and then I got to the end, and I think if there had been another one in the series, I would have read it, but I sort of just wandered off rather than being like, I'm going to devour everything she's ever written. But then my friend Shori, who I was visiting in New York a couple of weeks ago, we have the same taste in books, and we're always like swapping titles, and she was like, you have to read the Scholomance series, which turned out also to be by Naomi Novik. So I was like, oh yeah, I read Uprooted. And she was like, oh, well then you should definitely read it. And I was happy to do that. I feel like I'm always running out of recommendations along those lines. And there are 3 books in this series. So I was like, if I like it, it's going to hold me for a little while. Little did I know how fast I would read them, my downfall. And maybe that's the problem, the root of the problem. Okay, I buffed it in so thoroughly that it's like barely there, but it is there. Way better. I'm going to go in with a little bit more concealer. So the Scholomance series takes place at a wizard school, but don't roll your eyes. It is like an extremely gritty, dark, R-rated version of a wizard school and manages kind of brilliantly to avoid what one might think would be unavoidable parallels and comparisons with other famous book series about a wizard school. It is like completely and entirely its own world and its own beast, and much more science fiction, actually, and definitely not for kids. Incredibly refreshing, compelling, and the other thing is really, really character-driven through the point of view of the main character, who is like a blazing, dark, and very well-developed point of view character. And relatable in this kind of like angsty teenage way, but again, the portrait is painted in a way that doesn't feel like it's young adult fiction, although I have no problem reading young adult fiction, love it so much. It's interesting because it features young adults, but it has sort of like a tenor and then subject matter that feels a bit more expansive than that, and I have just eaten these books alive. The way that my friend Shori described it to me, and Shori was the one who made me read Gideon the Ninth, as you may remember. She really never lets us down over here. She was like, it's wizard kids going to school in a school that's trying to kill them, which once I got into the books is like a little bit of an oversimplification of what's going on, but kind of gives you a sense of the vibe, right? It's like a little bit fear, death, and destruction kind of all around. Delightful and totally off the rails imagination-wise. Like the world building is really creative, but it's sold in this, again, gritty, dark, and kind of direct way that makes you buy it hook, line, and sinker. And I have really bought in. So I'm in the middle of the 3rd book. I mean, what I need is like bedtime reading. So I need to have something to read for an hour when I'm falling asleep at night. And if I had just stuck to that with these books, they would have lasted me a lot longer. But I like them so much that I started reading throughout the day, taking a little break. When I take a little 5-minute break from work, I'll like read for 5 minutes. And in the evenings, like reading them while I'm cooking or like reading before dinner, reading in the bath, instead of filling those little gaps in my life with either contemplation, like not consuming media, or some other kind of media. And because I've been doing that, I've read like all of them in 4 days or something. It's a crying shame. I'll probably finish the 3rd book like tonight or tomorrow, and then I'm going to be really sad that the whole thing's over. But insofar as it's added spice to my life this week, it's definitely been cheering me up, and I totally recommend this series, especially if your tastes are anything adjacent to mine when it comes to light reading. Other book that really had me in its grip lately is slightly less light. It's a nonfiction book called Stolen Focus, and it was written by the journalist Johann Hari. I posted about it on Instagram, and I said, for me, it's the book of the year. And that is how I feel. And I'll be surprised if anything this year unseats it, even though it's only March. I'm spot concealing right now, by the way, with the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer, as I often do, and this Persona brush, which I think is supposed to be for eyeshadow. But I love a little double-ended brush like this for concealer. I like being able to use the tiny end to like lay down the product, and then the slightly bigger pencil brush to diffuse the edge for spot concealing. So in Stolen Focus, the writer investigates what he learned happens is like a statistically proven phenomenon of us as people on the planet en masse as a group becoming less and less able to focus and to think deeply over time. So our attention spans are getting shorter, and our ability to sustain focus on a single thing is definitely statistically shrinking. So the first thing he does is discuss why he began to suspect that this was the case based on his own experience and the experience of some of his friends and acquaintances. And then he goes looking for information about whether this phenomenon is actually true. He's like, is it just how I feel? Am I just getting older? Or is this like a thing that's happening, like a trend? He finds out that it truly is. It's something that people study and that has been proven. And so then he goes on a long campaign all around the world interviewing behavioral scientists, people who work in tech, social scientists, people who have done various experiments to try to regain or change the quality of their focus. Then he wrote the book, right? And he also does some, what I really love, right? Experiments on himself. He takes like a 3-month solid break from the internet, lives in isolation, and talks about what that experience is like. And it's all woven. Well, first, what I'll say is the structure of the book is that he decides, after all of his journalistic research, that there are 12 culprits for our declining ability to focus. And then that's how the book is structured. So he goes through each one of the 12, unpacks it, and talks about all of the data. So that's fascinating in and of itself. And if it's something in which you're interested or if it's resonant, you might already be like wanting to read it. I think I definitely would, just based on that. The thing that really it has to recommend it on top of all of that is the writing style, the fluidity, the beauty of the writing, just the quality of the narrative, how easy it is to read. Because as much as I love nonfiction, sometimes it's like the last thing that I want to pick up at the end of a long day. And this book, I just couldn't wait to get back into it every single time because everything is handled so elegantly, so beautifully. The pacing, the interweaving narrative, the characters, the people that he interviews, and the way that the data is presented, the way that it's sort of painted in these overlapping layers and it's structured really beautifully. I was just blown away, and I want everyone to read this book. I said this in my Instagram post. I'm like this close to buying one for all of my friends. I think that it's like a must read. And it's certainly making me think a lot and think in different ways about how I structure my life and the forces to which I'm subjected and the forces to which we're all subjected, and like what I would like for myself in terms of time and space and quality of thought and focus over the course of the rest of my life, how to achieve that for myself and how we as a society can set ourselves up to be able to achieve that better. It's really good. It really lit me up and is definitely an example of something that cheered me up. And then I finished reading it. I moved on to reading other things and it sort of slipped away. And so I'm really glad I'm talking about it again here because I'm getting back in touch with sort of the light that it cast and how exciting it felt. And that's what I've been missing over the past week or so, and I've been feeling like a pile of garbage. So that's complexion sorted, except I'm going to powder a tiny bit, mostly just over the spot conceal. And I'm using the Kosas powder. The lid has fallen off. And this brush, someone was asking me about it in the comments the other day. It's the Patrick Ta complexion brush. Remember when I reviewed that Patrick Ta balm foundation that had like a balm and a powder in one compact? This is the brush that was sold alongside that product. I bought it, even though I don't usually buy like the dedicated brush for something I'm using my channel budget to review. I bought it because what sold me on that product on reviewing it was this like mesmerizing Instagram reel that showed Patrick Ta applying the product to a model's face with this end, the balm, and then powdering with this end. And it was just that kind of marketing that sucks you in completely. And I was like, I need to do that. And I felt like I needed to review the entire experience, including the brush. And I got it, and I really didn't like the product. It didn't work for me in any way, but I really liked the brush and I'm still using it to this day. I use the cream end for cream blush and I use the other end for powder. Kosas has really let me down here though. So I have dyed my brows today and I haven't put anything else in them. I love this moment. This always cheers me up. I love putting like a brow wax or pomade into my freshly dyed brows. This is the Benefit Fluff Up Brow Wax, which I've been using exclusively layered underneath Gen C arch support. Today I'm just going to use this, I think, and see how it fares on its own because I don't need to darken my brows. And I've been wanting to try this anyway, just see how well it keeps them in place on its own. I don't think I want them to be fluffed up. Maybe in the front, I want them to be mostly like in this. Maybe I do kind of want them to be fluffed up. I mean, they're going to be mostly covered with my hair anyway. Nothing like a freshly dyed eyebrow. I'm still using that Godefroy tint kit that I've been using for years. I'll link it down below. What fun. And it feels like it's holding pretty well, actually, the brow wax. It's interesting. Usually I just put one layer in and then actual sculpting and shaping goes on with arch support. But this time I was sort of going back with a second coat and sculpting and shaping, and I can feel it setting, and I can feel that the hold is like pretty decent, at least for now. We'll see how it looks by the end of the video. So I recently filmed a video that I made simply because as I was falling asleep one night, I was like, I haven't worn red lipstick in a really long time. And in that video, I had almost no eye makeup, or it was like bare lids with maybe just a little bit of highlight, I think, a medium strong cheek, and a really strong red lip and mascara. I loved it. I loved wearing that look. I loved how it ended up looking in the video. Applying it really fired me up. And then I loved wearing that look for the whole rest of the day. And we even had company that evening and went out to dinner, and I had on that look the entire time, and I was just really feeling myself. So I want to do the same thing today, but with a different color of lipstick. I'm going to use 1990 by Merit and a brown lip liner. But because I know where I'm headed, I'm going to go eyes down. And I'm just going to leave my lids bare and use Lash Prototype to finish and tell you about some routines in my life that I know have been cheering me up. And it's hard. It's when you're feeling like a pile of garbage in spite of your best efforts. Well, maybe not my best efforts, right? Because it took until today for me to dye my brows, wash my hair, and put on my nails and my jewelry. But when you're making some effort and you're still feeling like a pile of garbage, sometimes it can be hard to remember how much bigger the pile would be if you weren't making the efforts that you're making. So I just want to give an honorary mention to like the things that I've been doing that I know have been keeping me up, even though I've been feeling down. And the main thing is that I mentioned this recently in a different video too, really working on cultivating a daily meditation practice, like a serious one, and really putting my nose to the grindstone at it kind of for the first time in my life. And it's because I'm in a class, an online group class designed to help cultivate like a real deep, long-lasting, lifelong meditation practice. The teacher of the class is my longtime friend and mentor, Julia Frodal. I've talked about her before a lot because she teaches in another extraordinary class about cultivating a compassion practice. Julia teaches the compassion class regularly. It's a 6-week course. I try to mention it from time to time just in case there's anyone out there who hasn't heard me mention it before and who might be interested because it's life-changingly extraordinary. I'll link her classes down below. They're not inexpensive, but she does offer scholarship help. And a lot of the classes are on a sliding scale as well. Wow, this mascara is really coming into its own as it's starting to dry out. That is an absolute banger of a mascara for a bare lid, all lash look. It's like stretching my lashes out. So the meditation class, Julia's meditation class, is new. I'm in the first class, the first cohort, and it's a longer class, which totally makes sense now that we're in the middle of it. It's like she's sticking with us, like she's slowly helping us to unfold, like helping us to get there and not just like dumping all the information all at once and hoping that we stick with it. And I, for one, feel like I really do need that. And there's not pressure to like develop at a certain pace. And I think that the length of the course is helping everyone feel like they can go at their own pace and they're not just going to kind of get left behind or get dropped. So I think it's been a month and a half at this point, the class. Is that right? Yeah, I think it's been about a month and a half at this point, maybe close to 2 months. Since a bit of a rocky start at the beginning, I've been doing some kind of meditation almost every day. It started really short and I'm getting more comfortable with a longer practice at this point and trying to keep growing in that direction. But oh my gosh, it changes your brain. Like it literally fundamentally changes your brain and the way that you move through the world. I mean, there are all sorts of proven benefits of meditation, but one of the most extraordinary, I think, immediately recognizable ones for me is just so much more patience. I'm so much less likely to get irritated by having to wait for something or by somebody behaving in a small way that doesn't like align with what I had hoped or what I had expected. The little irritations I used to always feel at stuff like that, it's just like gone into the ether. And a great many other things have changed and improved in my life as well on sort of a shallow or superficial level and on a deep level. This is just to say that as much as I'm telling myself that I've been going around feeling like a pile of garbage, I know it's nothing compared to how I would be feeling if I were going through this week as someone who didn't have a meditation practice or hadn't been cultivating one and working on changing her brain in these fundamental ways over the past 2 months. So I'm just saying it to remind myself. And also, in case Julia teaches a class again, that's kind of where I was going. I really, really hope that this isn't just a one-off. I hope she'll put it into regular rotation just like she has done with the compassion class because it's the ticket. It's the real deal. I've really been sticking to my aspiration not to have screens in bed with me. Other than my Kindle, which I can turn on the really amber light light and turn it down really low so I can read in the dark when I'm falling asleep. But it's not like a bright light shining. It's just like a very, very dull amber glow. I'm using this Chantecaille blush that I recently featured in my video, the update of my makeup collection. This is one of the few things that has joined my collection since the end of last year. And see what I mean about how subtle it is? I love. So the thing I've talked about in the past is that I know that not taking my phone into the bedroom with me or my laptop, which I'm equally as likely to do. I am not as addicted to my phone as most people, but I am, I think, more addicted to my laptop than a lot of people. And I tend to like carry it around the house with me and interact with it the way that a lot of people do with their phones. So I have to watch that. And it's always been one of those habits that I know will improve my quality of life if I can just buckle down and be strict with myself, not bring the screens in to the bedroom with me. And I mean, it's an extension of the larger plan, which is to try not to look at screens within an hour or two of going to sleep. Incidentally, miserably low quality sleep and not enough sleep is one of the 12 culprits that Johann Hari has identified in Stolen Focus. Just putting that out there. And he talks in that book, or he cites studies and cites scientists talking about how crucially important it is to stop looking at screens like 2 hours before you get in bed. So I've actually gone as far as to try to stop like by 8:30 or 9 at night looking at screens at all. So even if my laptop's in my office, I'll close the lid and I won't go in and open it. And I'll leave my phone in there too. And I won't look at it on a good day. Like that's what I'm aspiring to. And I don't always manage. But I have totally locked down the habit of not bringing either of those devices into the bedroom with me. And it's been a roller coaster. Like I've talked to you all, I think in the past about how I'll stick with that habit for a while and then I'll start slipping up. I'll start bringing my phone in. I'll just be like, I just have to have it. I just need a little something, like today was too hard or sleep is too elusive or whatever, paradoxically, because it is the culprit for elusive sleep, and yet we're like, I can't sleep, I need it. So during the pandemic, for example, I fell into the late night scroll habit pretty badly. And I talked about how I had been on the wagon for a while and then I had fallen off. And I just knew that if I could let go of that habit, reinstate the healthier habit of not bringing the phone, that would sort of be the first building block in getting back to other healthy habits. Like I've talked about that before. So the reason I'm bringing it up now is that I'm just on like a magnificent streak of not bringing devices into bed with me. And I feel like I've been doing it for long enough at this point that it's become totally second nature. Like the idea of bringing the phone into the bedroom and having it on my bedside table right now, it's like, why would I do that? I have lost the desire because I've been practicing the habit of leaving it outside for so long and I've been doing it with such regularity. Like it hasn't just been on and off. It's been like absolutely every day. And it's all of a piece. I think that daily meditation has calmed my brain a little bit and strengthened my resolve. It's made it easier for me to make good decisions around little things like that. So I hope it doesn't sound like I'm bragging or something. I'm not trying to brag. Again, I've been over here feeling sorry for myself, feeling like I couldn't put myself together, feeling like a mess. So when I sat down to make this list of things that have been cheering me up to share during this video, I was like, let me also list some things that have been helping, even though I'm not giving them the credit that they deserve. You know what I mean? I think for me, those are the two big ones. Okay, the last thing, we're going to do the lip. Can't wait. I'm going to put my mole back on actually with this brown. This is the Esam dual-ended lip pencil. So creamy, so long wearing, such pretty colors. So this one with the dark brown and the light brown is in the shade Nude. I use the dark brown to put my mole back on. I'm going to use a light brown to line my lips. And same thing as with the red lip. My lips are dry and very, I'm trying to talk and I'm messing it up. My lips are dry and textured, a little wrinkled. They're just really natural looking right now. They look like real lips, not like plump, shiny, glossy, perfect, slick slugs. And this is so much easier to handle than a red. I'm just softening the edges with my finger. And I also know that the lipstick I'm using isn't as super opaque and densely pigmented as the red that I used the other day, so I don't need to worry as much about the shape as I did. I might not even need to use a brush to soften it when I'm done. So the last thing on my list is a little bit of a low ball, because usually in what's cheering me up right now, I just talk about things like what I've talked about so far. Books, media, music, daily habits, food recipes, you know what I mean? Things that aren't new makeup, new clothes, stuff I've bought, orders I've placed, because you all know my history with that. That's the trap that I was stuck in before my YouTube channel, before my No Buy year, depending on a new shiny thing, the promise of a new shiny thing, the purchase of a new shiny thing, depending on that to like give me hope that things would be better next week, like when that package arrived in the mail, that my life would change, that I would change. I've tried to change my thinking about joy, like my thinking about being cheered up. I've tried to shift it away from focus on stuff and conceive of being cheered up as something that is caused by what you do, not what you buy. Reading books, changing habits, executing on plans that are habit related. Those are things that I know actually do cheer a person up and over time change a person's life. And so that's usually what I focus on because, you know, as I've said many times before, stuff that you buy can't change your life. So if you're feeling like a pile of garbage, a thing, a beautiful thing, a little thing is only going to be like a temporary Band-Aid. So that is why when I mention a thing, when I sit down to make this list about what's cheering me up and a thing springs to mind and I'm like, oh yeah, I have been getting a real boost out of thinking about that or spending time with it or using it or whatever, I always save it to last and front load with the other juicier, better prospects. I'm going to throw this lipstick on. Just the color of the Isom liner is beautiful, but see how this has like that cool toned quality? It just like brings it down to a little bit of a dirtier, grittier place. Blotted, it's sort of like a mix of the two, and I like that it's a little bit lighter. Oh my gosh, the statement lip is back in my life. This is me now. I feel like this is going to be my strategy for the next month or two. For me, having nothing on my eyes except mascara makes it so much easier to pull off a stamped on lip, like a really strong lip like this. And I've been enjoying it a lot. Okay, I'll tell you what the thing is. It was my birthday recently, and that's part of why I feel like it's okay to be like, there's this one little thing I'm really excited about it, and it's actually not little. I mean, not to me. My wonderful friend Simbri, who I've talked about from time to time, she's also an influencer. She has an Instagram account that's really inspiring and beautiful. I'll link it down below, and I recommend following her. For my birthday, Simbri gave me a gift card to Estelle Colored Glass, which is this like really alluring, special, niche glassware company that just makes glassware in beautiful, unusual, chic colors and some really fun special colors like pale mint and pale yellow and pink. And it's the kind of thing that I've always thought, wow, in my dreams, would I be able to have, for example, a set of Estelle Colored Glass stemware, like wine glasses. And when Simbri was here last, I think she might have observed that we don't really have a set of wine glasses. Like we have a little collection of dishes that we've slowly been putting together from East Fork that I feel like really reflect our personal style, like our homeware style, and that Joe and I really love. We have really pretty water glasses that I've chosen carefully. And so, you know, when we're entertaining as we were when Simbri was here, there are some really lovely cohesive aspects to that. Like I made dinner and I was like serving dinner. And then when it comes to the wine glasses, it's like this motley mix of weird, heavy glasses that have come from random things like, I don't know, a free bottle of wine that came with like a cheap glass. They're all different shapes and they're all really old, and it's just not something we've ever selected with care and brought into the home thoughtfully and happily. And it's always something I thought, you know, maybe in the future. So Simbri gave me a gift card for a set of Estelle Colored Glass wine glasses, like stemware, which meant I got to choose the color. And I spent an absolutely euphoric couple of days contemplating all of the different colors of Estelle Colored Glass stemware that I might get and how each color would look with our existing dishes. If I'm not too embarrassed about it, maybe I'll even show the collages on screen that I made so that I could completely envision exactly how every color that I was considering would look with the rest of our dishes. All of that decision-making was a real joy, and I finally decided on amber smoke for our glasses, placed the order, and I think they're going to be here tomorrow. So because I'm right on the cusp of that, receiving this really special birthday gift from my sweet great friend. And I think that the joy of contemplating the color was also part of the gift, and Simbri was fully aware of that. So it's sort of been an ongoing process, and it's been really fun also to send the collages to her and consult about the color. I just had to mention it again to remind myself, as much as to share with any of you, that there is joy in my life and that I'm not a pile of garbage, and my life certainly isn't. Because a pile of garbage and Estelle-colored glass just are not compatible. So I really need to have it together by the time the box arrives tomorrow. And I feel like I will. I feel like I have it much more together. Now this was like the last piece. Maybe I'll do an Estelle-colored glass unboxing on Instagram. Maybe I'll film a reel. Stay tuned. I've also been kind of considering, because I've been feeling bad and I've known that I'm feeling bad, and so I've been like casting a line into the future, trying to be like, what's it going to take? Like, what is it going to look like when I start on the upswing, you know? I've been contemplating doing another week of fancy dressing, which is something I did a really long time ago on my channel, just to like pump myself up a little bit, dressing for work every single day as if I worked in a slightly more formal environment, basically more formal than just my house with Joe. And I was thinking I would do that on Instagram because I haven't been feeling great lately. I haven't been posting my outfit of the day very often because sometimes it just has been like pajamas. But I was thinking I might try to kickstart that again and do it with a week of glamorous dressing up. So go and follow me on Instagram. Harangue me if you don't see the Estelle-colored glass unboxing, and then harangue me again if you don't see some schmancy outfits in the outfit of the day in my stories, like in the coming week. All right? I'm depending on you, and I'm also serving myself that challenge because at this moment, I feel like I'm capable of meeting it. 10s across the board for the makeup. The mascara, this is like the best it's ever been, a couple months into its life. The blush, so glad that I decided to keep it at the end of the year. The lip, why did I ever stop wearing Merit 1990 on at least a weekly basis, which is what I was doing for like a year? Why did I ever stop? I feel like there's not a scrap of garbage in sight. And that is going to be it. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. Thank you for seeing me through. Thank you for being subscribed, all of you who are subscribed, and everyone who's always commenting on my videos and liking my videos. Thank you so much for that. And I really, really hope that you are taking extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.